out of your day to join us. My name is Mike Tyne. I'll be a host for today's webinar. This is a session from American Megatrends, owner and developer of the StorTrends line of data storage solutions. We'll be talking today about the experience of the University of Maryland Department of Transportation Services. I'll refer to them as DOTS because University of Maryland Department of Transportation Services is a mouthful. That's their acronym. We'll be talking about their experiences as a StorTrends customer and user of the 3400i dual controller SAN. Okay, today's presenters, we've got a few folks on the line. Tim Robinson is joining us from DOTS, University of Maryland DOTS. Tim is the Senior IT Coordinator and Systems Administrator for DOTS. He's been there for a number of years and is responsible for DOTS internal IT systems, their physical and virtual servers, mainly their virtual shop, and he's also responsible for storage for DOTS. So he has responsibility for the StorTrends 3400i SAN array. James Dykowski will be representing StorTrends today. James is our Senior Solutions Engineer and Customer Support Manager. He's a real solid storage guy. Has been with the company for a number of years. He's responsible for helping customers develop solutions around the StorTrends product line. He helps with implementations, customer support, troubleshooting, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm the host. I'll be speaking and running the Q&A today. I'm the Director of Marketing, basically responsible for the StorTrends brand and things like webinars.
Thank you, Mike. The Department of Transportation Services here at the University of Maryland, here in College Park, Maryland, is currently serving the students, faculty, and staff here at our university. Currently, our campus has just over 37,000 students with 13,000 employees, that's staff as well as faculty, and we've seen thousands of visitors in the course of a year. DOTS is responsible for the daily management of all of the campus parking spaces here on campus and all the parking permits that are issued. We also provide all of the shuttle services. We actually have a fleet of 60 plus shuttle transit buses which physically roll around the region, ferrying affiliate students, faculty, staff on and off of campus. Here inside of DOTS, we have just over 400 total employees total. Some of the things that make us unique in our department here in DOTS and at the campus here in Maryland is we're one of the first campuses to physically implement a fully versional license plate recognition and vehicle registration system for our permits. Cameras are actually mounted to different enforcement vehicles, and through special software license plate recognition, these vehicles literally drive around campus, and should they come across a vehicle that's actually parked in a parking space where they do not have a permit to be parked, a citation is actually issued at that point in time on the spot. So that's some of the key points for us as far as our interest. From an infrastructural standpoint, I have converted, I'm currently at about 90% fully virtual, and I'm working towards a complete 100% virtual environment. I currently have 20 VMware ESX virtual servers running ESXi 5.0. I have 2 latency physical servers, which are HP products. I have multiple Microsoft SQL database servers, that's Microsoft SQL 2008, 2008 R2, plus some of the things that we actually do from an infrastructural standpoint is drive shares for departmental shares, home directories, providing our own website internal as far as the proprietary permit registration system that we house here in campus that was in-house written. Prior to moving to StorTrends, we were in a virtual environment using a SAN product solution from one of the heavyweights in the industry. We outgrew their need, and as I began to look for a new product, some of my basic needs was I needed, coming into a new SAN, around 4 terabytes total. I had latency SAN that provided okay performance, but it really wasn't what I wanted, especially the GUI interface. The GUI interface was just an old, hard-to-use interface, so I was trying to find something that was more robust, more easy to use. The latency system was also expensive. The product that I had was an OEM agreement between the manufacturer of the SAN and the retailer of the product. And when these two companies separated from doing business from each other, the OEM company wanted me to come to them. The retailer who initially sold me the SAN wanted me to come to them, and just the price was just outrageous. So I was looking for something that offered great long-term solutions that was relatively not as expensive as the contract that I was presently in. Next slide, please. So in my initial findings, I was looking for something that was easier and better than what I physically had. And the reason I ended up going with StorTrends is because the StorTrends product actually did provide me with better functionality over my legacy old vendor. It actually gave me true auto tiering. On my controllers, it actually gave me the option for active-active or active-passive. It allowed me to have thin or exact provisioning from the get-go. It actually provided WAN optimization as well as a great, simplistic, easy-to-use GUI interface. Some of the requirements that I needed coming into this was the initial requirements of a 4 terabyte system, but room to grow in the single chassis unit, as well as the simplistic to add on modules should I need to add on other SAN arrays. I wanted a RAID 5 system that had actually hot swappable drives in it. I wanted the product that could have at least 15 drives in the single chassis, and this is important when you're looking at spindles and the IOs to different spindles inside of your lungs. I wanted a full integration with the VMware, which would give me a single point of being able to get my statistics off of the SAN. If I'm logging into a client that can provide me my virtual environment, why not be able to provide me that same input? So I was wanting a product that gave me some VMware, that had a VMware plug-in. I was also looking for a 4-year maintenance, which is included in the base price. Some of these other heavyweight vendors will give you a basic 3-year, but if you want a 4-year, they mark you up for that for more. But the StorTrends product actually had the 4-year included. I wanted the storage support, great tech support, and even though I'm here in College Park, Maryland, and AMI is actually, StorTrends is located in Georgia, their direct telephone access and support has been great as I've developed the product and implement the product. And then the professional sales team. I remember when I first found out about StorTrends, I was attending a backup conference in the DC area, and I met the sales rep for StorTrends. He was very professional without being a salesperson. Like we talked about the product, the things that I was looking for in the product, and it may sound very trivial, but to me it was really important that the sales team gave me actually a no-pressure approach. They were able to provide me the information and then give me time to physically research and help me in demoing and selling the product through my supervisor before I actually purchased. And then the budget itself, I was really shocked when I saw the price of the StorTrends 3400i. It was literally about half the cost of a regular system and the cost of what my current system manufacturer is wanting to sell me and selling me a new one. Next slide. So the famous question, how is it performing? Successfully migrated the majority of my virtual lungs from the old arrays over to the 3400. When we purchased the product and plugged it into the case, into our rack, it was really simple to set up. In fact, I was overly shocked at how simplistic it was to set the product up, to bring it online, to integrate it into my present virtual environment cluster. It's been seamless migration with the VMware. The plugin has been tested and fully vetted, and I'm actually using the plugin to monitor the SAN inside of my vCenter client as part of the vCenter server. I've actually got stable I/O performance across the board, and it's nowhere close to touching the CPU or the memory. For what I'm using it for today, I have plenty of room to grow before I even remotely think about having to worry about my I/O performance or my processor. I've had a really good experience with AMI and the StorAid. Like I said, when I was in the process of setting this product up, we were in a telephone webinar section, and we were able to set it up within a couple of hours, and I was migrating my first set of lungs off of my legacy systems onto the new system. It's been really simplistic. I and my team have really enjoyed having this product thus far, and as we are looking to building a DR site, I will continue using the StorTrends, and will actually be purchasing yet another unit as I move forward into the new DR site. So with that, that's just my brief testimony.
Okay, so now what we'll do is start our GUI demonstration showing the ManageTrends plugin within the vSphere client. So we're going to go over here to my RDP session into the lab. You can see here I have a vSphere client that I'm logged into. This is a 4.1. We also support 5.0. You can see, just input the IP address, put in your login credentials. ITX admin is our default user. We do also support restricted users, so you can configure those within the users group settings within the control panel. So what it's going to do is take a second and log into the StorTrends unit. And what it's doing now is basically getting an overview of where the storage pools are, or storage pool in this case, we only have one, as well as the settings for the volumes that are within the StorTrends unit. Okay, and so it is connecting right now. Okay, and so now what it's doing is loading in, refreshing the StorTrends configuration, probably from the previous session. And now it's just going to give us the storage overview page. In this page, basically it'll show that we have our 256 terabytes here. This is the maximum available within the unit if you expand with JBODs, etc. You can see here we're using about 1% of this space within our volumes. Okay, so we scroll down here, you can see our storage pool, SP0, just for simplicity. We can see the space used by snapshots. We can show the available space. We can see all the volumes that are within the unit. If they have a snapshot schedule, you can see this one's set to an hour. VM0, we actually have that right up here on the left side. This is this VM that's connected here. And then V0, what we have is actually I/O running to it, so we can show the SRM charts. And we'll go ahead and actually start there, just to show the basic functionality of the StorTrends UI. Storage resource management, you just simply select right here. You can see class 5, so we have some highly accessed data, recently accessed, so that's within our iometer, just 67% reads, 33% writes, I think 8K block sizes. We can actually see that from right here. You can see here we have the hot zone, medium zone, and cold zone. So now any older data, less access data, stuff like that, will eventually migrate down to the cold zone. You can see here that we have some old data, this 2.6K right here in class 1, and it's in that hot zone. But what we do is we maintain a 50% threshold to ensure that your reads and writes have available space within that hot zone to give you the best performance possible. So once we fill up this array, eventually that 2.6K, that's just least access data, that'll actually migrate down. You can see here container space management. Okay, this is just our usage within the unit. We have 2.6 terabytes used of the 26 terabyte array. Logical disk performance. We can see the latency within the arrays, space utilization. So here what we can do is actually see on a container basis or volume basis your space used within the StorTrends unit. So we'll just slide this slider up right here, and you can see events, volume creation, system startup, stuff like that. So it kind of gives you an idea of what happened at these times if there are big spikes like right here, system startup. So there's a volume creation right here. So now, of course, it takes more space, right? And we can also do this on a volume level. Let's see the V0 right here. Okay. And this is the one that I'm running I/O to right now. And we can see the snapshot and volume size right here. On the top right, we can add 16 terabytes or whatever to see how far a JBOD would take us, given our current utilization and expansion of space. Volume performance. So now we have V0 right here, which is actually running I/O as we speak. And we can say writes and reads. So we can see it on any level that we want to. We can just zoom the slider in right here. And you can actually see at the bottom the actual 67%, 33%, perfectly placed within the volume performance graph here. And this is at a throughput level. We'll go back to the workflow performance. So this I/O performance right here, it does the same thing as the volume performance, except for it shows you on a block level. So you can see here I have 8K blocks running, and we can actually see the throughput for them. We can also switch this over and actually just see the IOPS if you want to know what the IOPS are on the particular volume. And of course, this is the IOPS coming from the initiator, so it's a simple way to see your storage and your server utilization going to a particular volume. Now, an important piece that goes with ILM is the workflow management. So you can see here we have this yellow activity right here. This is actual foreground activity going to the unit. During this time, if we did have any ILM, the zone bit recording, migration, promotion and demotion of data, or CSM, which is container space management. So if you added a JBOD, it would stripe the data down. We would actually hold off on doing this if we predict it to be a high point in a high I/O time. And you can see that here with the green. So now what we're doing is, based on the previous data, we're actually predicting what we expect the foreground activity to be. So now, in the middle of the day, when you need your performance the most, we're not going to do background activities such as demoting blocks from your higher tier down to your lower tier. We'll do that at night when you don't really need it. Okay. So what we're going to do now is actually pause the I/O since there's no sense in me having it going here. Okay. And we're going to go on through the rest of the demo here. And then working our way up, you can see the hardware health. So now you can see within the plugin. So this is one central place. You just log into your client. You have the StorTrends login right here. And you can see our StorTrends unit within here. Okay. And actually at the bottom, you can actually see if there are JBODs connected. You just simply select the JBODs and go forward right there. All of this is, you can hover over anything to basically see the status of it. So now we can see we have a 2 terabyte drive right here. We can see the CPU information right here. Everything's good. The core value, the voltage is good. We can also flip the rear view and see the back. We can see the network interfaces. Okay. And we can also see the fans. Okay. The fan speeds right there. And then these two NICs, I don't have them connected, so they're down. And you can just kind of see what it looks like when something is offline, basically. We do have basic functionality in the control panel. If you needed to get a system configuration out to the StorTrends team, you can simply do that right here. It'll download a debug dump of all the configuration settings within the unit to your desktop, and you just simply forward that on to our StorTrends storage support team. We can see network statistics, so we can see if there's any drop packets, etc. on your network, just in case maybe you're not getting the performance that you expect, stuff like that. We can do the same for iSCSI. We can disable portals, so if you want one port just to be a management port, you can simply disable the portal there and ensure that there's no I/O traffic that will go through there. And then here's just a list of all the sessions that are enabled within the unit. We do support bidirectional CHAP authentication as well, so if that is needed, you can configure that. Here you can see an event list. Essentially, we do have a left controller and a right controller. We monitor all of these controllers from one pane right here. So we can actually see if there was a failure on the right controller, etc. We can see that right here from this one centralized space. And then also the event list. So any of these critical, warning, whatever events, you can email them out to yourself, to your IT admin, and also sending out the critical alerts to the storage support team. And what they'll do is monitor them. If there's a disk failure, they can go ahead and have a disk ready for you, stuff like that. Okay, we do have basic information here about the server, the OS, the status of the space used. We saw the storage summary. So now we'll go into the plugin specific features. You can see we can create a virtual machine from right here. We can either use an existing data store, which we have this DC1 right here, which is this has this VM over here to the left connected, or we can just simply create a new data store. So we'll do this. We'll create test 1 right here. The data store size we'll do 123 gigs. We'll select next. Okay, this is our storage pool, as we stated before. This is just the default name, test1 VM. We have the full list of OSs available to you. We'll just select the top one. CPU count, we'll do 1 CPU. Disk size, we'll do 30 gigs. And memory size, we'll do 2 gigs. Simply select next. We can see an overview of everything. Provision type is SAN here. You can also do exact provisioning volumes within the StorTrends array, so that's very simple. And you can see the simple wizard. And these wizards go all through StorTrends. In the regular ManageTrends GUI, we have a volume creation wizard. You can create up to 256 volumes with this. We have a snap-assisted replication wizard. It's probably 5 steps, including creation of the volume on the secondary side, automatically for you to have that enabled. Okay, so you can see here it kind of stepped through the array. Storage pool were already created. It created the volume and then the data store, connected to the volume, then formatted the data store, the VMFS, and then we have our VM on top of that. So virtual machine created successfully, and we automatically post that over here on the left side. Okay. Now we can go back here. Okay, so now say I wanted to make a clone of this. I can easily do that, and I can do a data or an instant clone, as I showed in the slide before. The data clone will actually do a complete copy of the volume within the StorTrends unit. We can do this right here. We can select, I can refresh this actually. So now it'll show our test 1 that we just created. We can just do that one. Test 1 VM. I can create a clone. Let's call it clone. We'll just do 1 just for the time being. Select next and finish. So what it's going to do, internally to the StorTrends unit, we're going to copy the data. So now you don't have to worry about any throughput issues going to the ESX host and coming back out of the ESX host, hogging your bandwidth. So we'll copy that data internally, which it's doing right now, to a new volume, test 1 clone 1. And what it's going to do is then rescan the HBA, so connect to the target, rescan the HBA for all due targets. It's going to format the VMFS on the data store just like we did before, or actually it's going to connect to the data store, assign a new signature because this is an already existing data store, and then it's going to actually connect to the VM, of which then it'll throw it over here as test 1 VM clone 1, I believe, because it's also one of a possible many VMs. So we can see that here on the left. This is the exact same process for a instant clone. The only difference is the instant clone is utilizing our redirect on write snapshot technology. So what it'll do is actually just take a snapshot of that clone, of that VM, I'm sorry. Then it'll mount the snapshot, and then away you go. It'll connect to the data store just like we did here, and then add in the virtual machine. Okay. The Data store management is another feature. We can delete a data store, we can expand a data store. We'll go ahead and expand. We can select test 1 here, or we can see our new one, test 1 clone 1. We'll expand this one. We'll expand this to 150. We'll select next. Okay, simple enough, and we'll select finish. So now within here, we can see the volume expanding within the StorTrends unit. And then what it's going to do is automatically expand the VMFS partition for you. So what we can do is go see over here, configuration, and we can see we have our test 1, which is 123 gigs, which is correct. And we have our test 1 clone 1, which is 150 gigabytes. Okay, going back over here, and then just to show a simple delete data store, say we don't like the clone, we've messed it up or whatever, we can simply just delete that right here. Select the data store, okay. What it's going to do is get rid of your virtual machines that are within that data store, get rid of the data store for you, and then delete the volume actually within the StorTrends unit. Making this absolutely as simple as possible to create a virtual machine, create any kind of clone that you want to, instant or a full data clone, and then also doing your data store management. Another big note about the create virtual machine clone, you can do multiple VMs within a specific volume. So anything like that, if you have a data center in a box, basically a volume with an Exchange server, a SQL server, a DHCP server, and a DNS server, you can simply just clone that whole volume right there. It'll clone all 4 VMs and then automatically mount them in for you, and you'll be up and running in no time as soon as you can configure those for the specific client or yourself. Okay, data store deleted successfully. We can hit close here, and we can check that within our storage summary pane to see, is that volume in fact gone? Okay, we can see our test 1, and there is no test 1 clone, so that worked perfectly fine. Okay, well that sums up the demo portion of this presentation. Now what we can do is go into the Q&A portion.
Hopefully, through James's presentation, you got a good understanding of the capabilities of the 3400i array. You've been able to see how the vSphere plugin works, and you've got a good overview of the GUI and what it looks like. So we have collected some questions during the course of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and ask those. Caroline, if you could take Tim off of mute, that'd be great. Looks like he is off of mute. Okay, Tim, you sent this out during chat. I just wanted to make sure you were comfortable divulging this information. Looks like you are, so I'm just going to ask the question out loud. Someone wanted to know what the SAN was that you were using prior to StorTrends. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that again, that'd be great.
Yes, our old SAN that we've just retired was a Dell AX4, which is an EMC rebranded under the Dell umbrella.
Cool. Okay. Tim, I have 2 more questions for you. Could you talk a little bit about what your DR strategy is at DOTS?
Yes. What we're looking at developing currently is physically having a hot site at another facility that's owned by the university in a different location. So ultimately, I would have the capability to, I would be running identical primary and secondary sites, both hot, interchangeable, so that I could vMotion from one directly into the other flawlessly.
Great. For the person that asked that question, if you would like further elaboration, certainly let us know. Just send us a note through the WebEx tool. A question about the support you've received through StorTrends. How would you describe your overall support experience with American Megatrend?
I have actually worked quite a bit with, as you know, one of your sales rep, Ben, and he has provided liaison with me directly into support. It's going beautiful. Any problems that I had, we were able to resolve fairly quickly. And I say problems, those in and of themselves were very minimum, but the store support has just been really great.
Awesome. Thanks for responding. Appreciate it. Got a couple of product-related questions. So James, these would be for you. Earlier in the presentation, Tim talked about data tiering as one of the features that was attractive to him. I'm paraphrasing a bit here. Can you explain how auto-tiering works in the StorTrends context, and does it tier data across RAID sets, volumes? How does it work, basically?
Okay, sure. So basically, you have your data input onto the array. Initially, what we'll do is just place it onto the top tier and bottom tier data. And over an initial amount of time, 2 weeks, what we'll do is start migrating the data up and demoting the data down based on how much it's been used within that 2-week period. Then on an hourly basis, we'll check to see what has been used and not used within the StorTrends appliance. Anything actually, and before an hourly basis, if it is used, it's instantaneously promoted up to the top tier. Then on that hourly basis, if there is more than 50% used of that top tier, so we keep 50% full just in case you have reads and stuff like that, we'll then demote any data that hasn't been used as frequently as the other data surrounding it. This also integrated with that workflow management. So if the data is, if it's around 50%, if it's 80%, something like that, to where there is space available for incoming writes, etc., we'll actually use workflow management and not demote data to add I/O to the system while you're using heavy I/O. And that's just to make sure that your initiator's performance is the highest performance possible from the StorTrends array while using this feature. And of course, zone bit recording works in the same way. It's just within that tier to ensure that now the tier is running as efficiently as possible, as well as all the tiers within your system, so your SAS drives to your SATA drives, or your RAID 50 to your RAID 5, stuff like that.
Okay. Another question, how many IOPS will the 3400i provide using SAS 15K RPM drives?
Okay, right. In general, that depends on block size, and it does depend on disk speed as well, so the 15K is helpful. With an 8K block size, we've have easily seen 5800 IOPS. That's, of course, in a performance environment, multiple volumes running simultaneously, running random I/O to the array at the same time, as well as utilizing our advanced caching module, ACM, within the StorTrends appliance to ensure that you are getting the best cache performance within the array. And then, of course, that makes everything efficient down to the disk. And then we have ZBR and ILM to ensure that that volume is on the top tier and running as fast as possible. So many layers to ensure that you do get the performance you need, and it's well over 300 IOPS per disk, and that's just with a 16-disk array. This, of course, scales up if you were to have a performance need and you wanted to add just JBODs simply to add to that performance.
Okay, great. The person that asked that question needs further elaboration. Let us know. I'm going to do a final check for questions, and then we're going to get everybody out of here and back to their afternoon. Let's see. I believe that will do it for today. I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day. We really appreciate it. We'll make this recording available through StorTrends TV, which is linked from the StorTrends.com site. Tim, thanks in particular to you for sharing your experiences with American Megatrends and StorTrends. James, for sharing an overview of the product and the demo. That'll do it. Everybody have a great afternoon, and we'll circle around with you individually offline. Take care.